My husband wanted my sister to be his wife for a day. His brother wanted me for life. That thought, an eerie, half-formed premonition, struck me as I twirled the spaghetti around my fork. I had been home for less than an hour after a 12-hour day at the firm, and the smell of garlic and simmering tomato sauce was the only thing holding the exhaustion at bay. I was 35 years old, a corporate attorney, who had made partner 2 years earlier, and yet here I sat, cooking dinner, because my husband, Damen, had claimed he was too tired, despite having been home since 3 o'clock that afternoon. I was contemplating the irony of my life. A woman who argued multi-million-dollar cases before judges, but couldn't get her husband to contribute to the grocery bill. When Damen dropped the bomb. So, my 10-year reunion is next month, and I need Nikki to come with me, he said, not even looking up from his phone. His voice was as casual as if he had asked me to pass the salt. I kept chewing my pasta, convinced I had misheard him. Nikki was my younger sister. She was conventionally prettier than me, thinner than me by 15 pounds, and, by choice, had been unemployed for the last 2 years because she was finding herself on my dime. I paid her rent. I paid her car insurance. I funded the expensive highlights she got every 6 weeks because dark roots apparently hampered her self-discovery. I did not realize I was also paying for her to attend my husband's high school reunion, too. I swallowed the clump of pasta in my mouth. Why would Nikki be coming to your reunion? I asked. Damen finally sighed, scrolling past whatever captivated him. Because I need her there, he said, like that explained everything. I set my fork down with a quiet clink. I waited. Surely, there was a secondary clause to this insane statement. There was not. He just kept scrolling, his thumb moving smoothly across the glass screen. Damen, I said, putting a slight edge in my voice that I rarely used at home, reserving it instead for depositions. He looked up, wearing that expression he always wore when I was about to inconvenience him with logical questions. The look said, "Must you? Why do you need my sister at your high school reunion instead of your actual wife?" He sighed again, a performance of profound exhaustion. Because I told everyone I married her, he admitted. Back when we first started dating. My buddies met her once at that barbecue, and they assumed she was my girlfriend. I never corrected them. I stared at him. I kept staring, waiting for the part where he laughed and said he was kidding, where this became some twisted joke I could eventually categorize as humor. That part never came. You told your friends you married my sister, I repeated slowly, making sure the words aligned with the reality he was proposing. It's not a big deal, he said, picking his fork back up like the topic was concluded. It was easier than explaining. And honestly, babe, you know how those guys are. They're shallow. They remember Nikki being hot, and they've spent 10 years thinking I locked that down. I can't show up with someone different and explain that actually, I married the other one. The other one. Macy. The woman who had graduated top of her class in law school, made partner at 33, bought us this $300,000 house, and financed every piece of furniture he was currently sitting on, was the other one. I felt a profound coldness spread through my chest, but I kept my voice steady. That was my role. I stayed calm. I was reasonable. I didn't make scenes. So, your solution, I said. is to bring my sister as your fake wife to a reunion full of people I'll never meet. And I'm supposed to just be okay with that. Damon reached across the table and grabbed my hand, squeezing my fingers with a practiced gesture of comfort. It's one night, Macy. Nobody will ever know. These people don't matter. I'll make it up to you, I promise. We'll do a nice dinner after, just us. Whatever restaurant you want. He smiled at me with those blue eyes that used to make my stomach flip. And a realization hit me with the force of an oncoming train. He thought I was stupid. He thought I was so desperate to keep him happy and keep the peace that I would agree to anything if he just promised me a nice dinner afterward. The horrifying worst part was, he was probably right. He had been training me to accept less since the day we met. He had been training me to be the other one. My passive agreement to Damon's insane request felt like signing a contract with the devil. But I told myself it was fine. It was just one night, a harmless, if embarrassing, lie he needed help covering up. The only thing that truly kept nagging at me was how quickly Nikki had agreed, how she already knew the date of the reunion before I did, and how comfortable Damon seemed asking his actual wife to step aside for her own sister. I decided I was not going to sit back and watch from the sidelines. I was a corporate litigator. I did not watch from the sidelines. I inserted myself right into their little rehearsals to see exactly how they acted when the wife they were replacing was standing in the room. I wanted to see if Nikki would look guilty, if Damon would stumble, if both of them would realize how deeply insane this situation was. I wanted to watch them squirm. So, I came home early from work the next day. I found them in my living room. The one I had paid for with the bonus I earned 2 years ago, going over their script. I figured I could help give you feedback on what looks believable, I announced, walking in. They barely looked up. Damon, sprawled on the couch with a pile of takeout containers on the coffee table, simply said, "Sure, babe," and went right back to whispering with Nikki. I sat down in the upholstered chair across from them and waited for the awkward silence, the sudden shame, the guilt to settle in. It never did. They just kept going, treating me like I was part of the furniture in the house I had provided, a quiet fixture that contributed nothing to their interesting new plot. Okay, so when they ask how we met, Damon said, leaning toward Nikki with his elbows on his knees, I'll say, I saw you across the room at a mutual friend's birthday party. And I knew right then I had to talk to you. My whole body went rigid. That was not a line from a script. That was our story. That was how Damon and I actually met. I had been standing by the window, and he walked up and said I looked like I was plotting my escape. I had laughed, and we talked for 3 hours. Wait, I interjected, and they both glanced at me like I had committed a serious breach of etiquette. That's our story. That's how you and I actually met, the night that started our entire relationship. Damon shrugged, completely untroubled. Exactly. I already know it by heart, so I won't mess up the details. Makes it easier. The coldness in my chest intensified. You want to use the story of how you met your wife to pretend you married someone else. You do not see anything wrong with that. Not really, he dismissed. It's practical. I turned to Nikki. And you are okay with this? Pretending you had the night that I actually had. The night I've told you about a dozen times, because I thought my sister would care about the most important moment of my life. Nikki examined her freshly manicured nails. The manicure I had paid for last week. I mean, it's not like you own a story, Macy. Things happen to lots of people the same way. It's not that deep. It happened to me specifically with him, your brother-in-law, and now we are borrowing it for one night. I countered. You'll get it back, she said, sounding bored, as if I was being stingy with an old sweater. Damon turned back to Nikki, signaling that the conversation with me was over. So after the party, I texted you the next day and asked if you wanted to get coffee, and I said yes, but I made you wait 3 days before we actually went. Nikki smiled at him, a genuine, intimate smile that felt like a punch. Because I didn't want to seem too eager. That was exactly what I had done. I had made him wait 3 days, because my roommate told me 3 days was the minimum wait time to avoid looking desperate. Nikki knew this story, because I had shared it with her late at night years ago, thinking I was entrusting a precious memory to my little sister. Now, she was reciting it back to my husband as if it belonged to her. I told you that story in confidence, I said to Nikki, my voice low and strained. Damon let out a loud, aggressive sigh and finally turned to face me fully, his jaw clenched. You know what this is really about. You are so used to being the boss at work that you cannot let anyone else have anything without controlling it. Everything has to go through Macy. We cannot even have a conversation without you hovering over it like a manager. This is not about control. This is about you giving away my memories. See, there you go again. Your memories, your story, your life. He shook his head. Not everything belongs to you just because you were present for it. I was there, too. It's my story as much as yours, and I can tell it however I want. Nikki nodded in quick agreement. He has a point. You cannot copyright a relationship. I tried a different approach, forcing myself to remain rational. Okay, well, what about the proposal? What are you going to say when people ask about that? Rooftop restaurant downtown, Damon said without hesitation. I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket all night, and I was so nervous I could barely eat. Then after dessert, I got down on one knee, and the whole restaurant clapped. My engagement, my proposal, the happiest night of my life, was being reduced to a script for my sister to memorize. That's literally what you did for me, I said, and my voice cracked in a way I hated. That's my proposal. I cried, you cried. The waiter brought us free champagne. How can you just hand it to someone else? Damon's face twisted into something ugly and defensive. You know what, Macy? You have always been jealous of Nikki. This is not about control. This is about you giving away my memories. See, there you go again. Your memories, your story, your life. He shook his head. Not everything belongs to you just because you were present for it. I was there, too. It's my story as much as yours, and I can tell it however I want. Nikki nodded in quick agreement. He has a point. You cannot copyright a relationship. I tried a different approach, forcing myself to remain rational. Okay, well, what about the proposal? What are you going to say when people ask about that? Rooftop restaurant downtown, Damon said without hesitation. I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket all night, and I was so nervous I could barely eat. Then after dessert, I got down on one knee, and the whole restaurant clapped. My engagement, my proposal, the happiest night of my life, was being reduced to a script for my sister to memorize. That's literally what you did for me, I said, and my voice cracked in a way I hated. That's my proposal, I cried. You cried. The waiter brought us free champagne. How can you just hand it to someone else? Damon's face twisted into something ugly and defensive. I tried a different approach, forcing myself to remain rational. Okay, well, what about the proposal? What are you going to say when people ask about that? Rooftop restaurant downtown, Damon said without hesitation. I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket all night, and I was so nervous I could barely eat. Then after dessert, I got down on one knee, and the whole restaurant clapped. My engagement, my proposal, the happiest night of my life, was being reduced to a script for my sister to memorize. That's literally what you did for me, I said, and my voice cracked in a way I hated. That's my proposal, I cried. You cried. The waiter brought us free champagne. How can you just hand it to someone else? Damon's face twisted into something ugly and defensive. You know what, Macy? You have always been jealous of Nikki. Ever since you were kids, she got more attention. She got more dates. She got more everything. And you have never gotten over it. He gestured at my sister. This is not about the reunion. This is about you still competing with her, after 30 years. I am not competing with anyone. I am asking why my husband is teaching my sister how to be me. Because she is willing to help without making it a federal case. He snapped. He turned back to Nikki, his expression softening immediately. Unlike some people, Nikki reached over and squeezed his arm supportively. It is okay. She doesn't get it. You think this is easy for me. Damon's voice rose suddenly, portraying himself as the one being wronged. I have to go back to these people and lie to their faces all night. I have to pretend my whole life turned out different than it did. But sure. Let's focus on how hard this is for you. Nikki reached over and squeezed his arm supportively. It is okay. She doesn't get it. You think this is easy for me. Damon's voice rose suddenly, portraying himself as the one being wronged. I have to go back to these people and lie to their faces all night. I have to pretend my whole life turned out different than it did. But sure. Let's focus on how hard this is for you. Let's make it about Macy's feelings like we always do. I stared at him. You created this situation. You are the one who lied for 10 years, and I am trying to fix it without blowing up my entire social network. But you cannot give me one night. After everything I do around here, you cannot give me one single night without making it weird. One. What exactly do you do around here? He challenged. His jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Nikki jumped in, listing his alleged merits. He supports you emotionally. He is here when you come home from your stressful job. He manages the house while you are working all the time. She sounded like she was reading his resume. Not everything is about money, Macy. I looked around the house I paid for, the furniture I bought, the electricity and water and internet that came out of my account every month. Damon had not had a steady job in 3 years. The last time he managed the house, he forgot to pay the water bill. I already talked to Mom about this. Nikki added casually. She said you would probably overreact. She thinks it is actually kind of sweet that Damon cared enough about his friend's opinions to keep up the story this long. You talked to our mother about this before I even knew it was happening. I needed advice. She gets it. I do not know why you cannot. Damon seized on this point immediately. See, your own mother understands. Your own sister is willing to help. The only person with a problem is you. He paused and tilted his head. What does that tell you? I did not have an answer, or I had too many answers, and none of them would come out right. I just sat there, absorbing the latest punch. Let's just keep practicing, Nikki said, dismissing me entirely. We do not have that much time left. They went back to it. Walking through our first anniversary trip, and the time I surprised him at work with lunch. All moments that happened to me. All moments I thought belonged to us. At one point, I tried to interject, pointing out that the anniversary restaurant was French, not Italian. Damon cut me off instantly, pitching his voice high in a cruel imitation of mine. Oh, here we go, he mocked. Actually, Damon, that's not exactly right. Actually, Damon, you are telling it wrong. Actually, Damon. Let me correct you in front of everyone, like I always do. He looked at Nikki, and they both laughed at me in my house. I was just trying to help you get the details right, I said quietly. We do not need your help, Nikki said, still smiling from the impression. We have got it handled. Why don't you go do some work or something? Isn't that what you are good at? Macy's agreement to let them rehearse had been a terrible tactical mistake. It had not made them squirm. It had only fueled their insolence. Leaving the living room after the French versus Italian restaurant correction, I was no longer absorbing pain. I was calculating how to return it with interest. I went upstairs, washed the remnants of the day off my face, and gave myself 5 minutes to calm down. I told myself I was overreacting, just like Damon and Nikki had insisted. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard Nikki giggle. It was not her usual, theatrical laugh. It was something softer, private. Like the sound of shared secrets. I stopped on the landing and looked through the railing. What I saw made the blood drain from my head. Damon had his hand on Nikki's face. His thumb was tracing her cheekbone, and she was leaning into the touch with her eyes half closed. Their faces were inches apart. They were about to kiss. My husband and my sister, in my living room, in the house I paid for. I must have made a sound, because they jumped apart instantly, like someone had fired a gun. Nikki's face went scarlet, and Damon's hands flew up in a gesture of frantic surrender. They both started talking at once. A panicked, overlapping chorus of lies. It is not what it looks like, Damon insisted. We were just rehearsing, Nikki claimed. In case anyone asks about us being affectionate. I stood on the stairs, looking down at their matching panic, watching them try very hard to assume the pose of innocence. Right, I said slowly. Rehearsal. Damon's face relaxed into a quick, false relief. Exactly. We got carried away practicing. It didn't mean anything. Nikki nodded quickly. We have to look like a real couple. That's literally all it was. I walked down the rest of the stairs and sat back in my chair. I watched them watch me, waiting for my reaction. And I gave them none. I let them think I bought it. Because I needed time to figure out what was actually happening before I said something I could not take back. The gaslighting was over. I was not overreacting. Something was profoundly wrong. Nikki left an hour later, and I followed Damon upstairs without saying a word. He went into the bathroom to brush his teeth, operating as if this was any other regular night in our marriage. I waited until he came out, then I stepped in front of the bedroom door, blocking his path. "Move," he said, already exhausted. "No." He blinked at me. In 10 years of marriage, I had never blocked a door. I had never stood in his way. I had always been accommodating and easy to walk around. "Macy, I'm tired. Move. You are not sleeping until you tell me what is going on with you and Nikki." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We already explained that it was rehearsal. You said you understood." I lied. "I do not understand anything. I do not understand why my husband had his hand on my sister's face. I do not understand why she was leaning into him, like she had done it 100 times before. I do not understand why you two looked more comfortable together than you have looked with me in years." Damon tried to step around me, and I moved with him. His jaw tightened. "You are being crazy right now. You know that, right? You are acting like a crazy person. Then explain it to me so I stop being crazy. Tell me one thing that makes sense." "I already told you." "We were practicing looking like a couple. That's literally all it was. Then why did you jump apart like I caught you doing something wrong? If it was just practice, you would have laughed it off. You would not have panicked." He threw his hands up. "What do you want me to say? That I am sleeping with your sister? Is that what you need to hear, so you can feel justified in this little meltdown you are having? Are you?" The question hung between us. Damon stared at me, and I stared back, and for 3 seconds, neither of us breathed. "I cannot believe you would even ask me that." His voice went quiet and wounded, performing profound hurt. "After all these years together, after everything we have built, you are going to stand there and accuse me of sleeping with Nikki because we got a little too into character during a rehearsal? You didn't answer the question because the question is insane." He was yelling now. Damon tried to step around me, and I moved with him. His jaw tightened. "You are being crazy right now. You know that, right? You are acting like a crazy person. Then explain it to me so I stop being crazy. Tell me one thing that makes sense." "I already told you. We were practicing looking like a couple. That's literally all it was. Then why did you jump apart like I caught you doing something wrong? If it was just practice, you would have laughed it off. You would not have panicked." He threw his hands up. "What do you want me to say? That I am sleeping with your sister? Is that what you need to hear so you can feel justified in this little meltdown you are having? Are you?" The question hung between us. Damon stared at me and I stared back, and for 3 seconds, neither of us breathed. "I cannot believe you would even ask me that." His voice went quiet and wounded, performing profound hurt. "After all these years together, after everything we have built, you are going to stand there and accuse me of sleeping with Nikki because we got a little too into character during a rehearsal? You didn't answer the question because the question is insane." He was yelling now. "No, Macy. No, I am not sleeping with your sister. Happy, can I go to bed now?" He tried to push past me. I grabbed his arm. He tried to push past me. I grabbed his arm. My fingers dug into his bicep, and he stopped moving, looking down at my hand, like he could not believe I was touching him without permission. Let go of me. Not until you look me in the eyes and tell me there is nothing between you two. He yanked his arm free, and his whole face changed. His lip curled up on one side, and his eyes went flat and cold. He looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. You want to know what there is between us? Relief. That's what. Relief that I get to spend time with someone who does not interrogate me every time I breathe. Relief that I get to be around a woman who actually makes me feel good instead of making me feel like a failure every single day. I have never called you a failure. You do not have to. It is in everything you do. The way you sigh when you pay the bills. The way you mention your job every 5 minutes. The way you look at me like I am a problem you are too tired to solve. He stepped closer. Nikki does not look at me like that. Nikki thinks I am worth something. Nikki does not pay your bills. See, there it is. Everything comes back to money with you. You cannot even have a conversation without reminding me that you are the one with the checkbook. I am reminding you that I am the one with the checkbook because you seem to have forgotten who funds your life while you spend your days rehearsing romance with my sister. Damon's nostrils flared. You know what? I am done. If you cannot trust me after 10 years, then maybe we shouldn't be married anymore. The words were a threat, a weapon he knew I had been avoiding my entire marriage. Is that what you want? I asked. Divorce. I want a wife who does not treat me like a suspect. If you cannot be that, then yeah. Maybe divorce is exactly what I want. He grabbed a pillow and a blanket and walked out without looking back. I stood in the bedroom doorway and realized something important. He had yelled. He had deflected. He had threatened divorce. But he never once looked me in the eyes and said there was nothing between him and Nikki. He couldn't. Because there was. I grabbed my keys and my purse and walked out the front door without telling him where I was going. He did not ask. He did not even look up from the television downstairs. Nikki's apartment was 20 minutes away. I knew the route by heart, because I had driven there dozens of times with groceries, with furniture, with a check for her security deposit, because she had blown through her savings. I had set up automatic transfers for her rent 2 years ago because she said dealing with money stressed her out. $24,000, plus insurance, plus phone bills, all while she was sleeping with my husband. Every hour I spent at work to cover her bills was an hour she spent with Damon. I parked in front of her building and took the stairs 2 at a time. It was almost 11 at night, and I did not care. I banged on her door hard enough that her neighbor opened theirs to see what was happening. Nikki, open the door now. I heard movement inside, then her voice, high and nervous. Macy. What are you doing here? Open the door, or I will keep knocking until someone calls the police. The lock clicked, and the door opened 3 inches. Nikki's face appeared in the gap, looking pale and scared. It's late. Can we talk tomorrow? No. I pushed the door hard, and she stumbled backward as I walked into the apartment I funded. We are talking right now. You cannot just barge in here. I pay your rent. I can do whatever I want. I looked around at the furniture I had helped her pick out. How long? Nikki wrapped her arms around herself. How long? What? Do not play dumb with me. How long have you been sleeping with Damen? I am not sleeping with Damen. I told you it was just rehearsal. Why won't you believe me? Because I saw your face when he touched you. I saw how natural it looked. That was not acting, Nikki. That was muscle memory. That was something you have done so many times your body did it without thinking. Am I imagining things? Then explain why you know so much about my husband. Explain why you two have inside jokes I have never heard. Nikki's eyes darted toward her phone on the counter, looking for backup. He is not coming to save you, I said. I left him on the couch. It is just you and me. Sister to sister. Tell me the truth. There is nothing to tell. Fine, then tell me this. I stepped closer and watched her step back. What is the birthmark on his left hip shaped like? Nikki's face went white. For 1 second, she forgot to lie, and I saw the answer in her eyes before she covered it up. I do not know what you are talking about, she whispered. Yes, you do. You know exactly what I am talking about, because you have seen it. You have touched it. You have been close enough to my husband's body to know things only his wife should know. How long, Nikki? How long have you been sleeping with my husband in the apartment I pay for? She did not answer. She just stood there, using the same tears she had used 100 times to get out of trouble. I am done, I said. Your rent payment stops today. Your car insurance stops today. Everything I have been paying for stops today. You want to take my husband? Fine. But you are going to do it without my money. Macy, wait! You cannot just cut me off! I do not have anywhere to go. Should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my marriage. I walked out and slammed the door behind me. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, just breathing, processing what I had confirmed. My husband, my sister, in my house, on my money, behind my back, and they still expected me to stay home while they played happy couple at his reunion. That is when the idea hit me. Damen wanted to bring my sister as his fake wife. Fine. Then I would bring his brother as my date. Jackson. The one who had done everything right, while Damen floated through life on charm and other people's money. Jackson had started his own business at 25, owned his house outright, and made Damen look bad just by existing. I pulled out my phone and found Jackson's number. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing. Hi, Jackson. This is Macy. I know this is random, but I need a favor. A big one. Can we meet tomorrow? Please do not tell Damien I reached out. I hit send before I could talk myself out of it. A minute passed. Then 2. Just as I was about to start the car, my phone buzzed. Is everything okay? I typed back, no. That is why I need your help. His response came telling me to meet him for coffee tomorrow morning. The catalyst was in place. The text message exchange with Jackson, Damen's brother, was cold, analytical, and mercifully free of the manipulative drama I had endured for the past week. It gave me the strength to face the next morning. Jackson met me at the coffee shop downtown, the same coffee shop I used to rush past on my way to the firm. He listened to everything. I recounted the whole story, from the initial insane request to the emotional theft of our memories, the cold confrontation with Nikki, and the undeniable confirmation of the affair. I even told him about the birthmark, and the word felt dirty on my tongue. Jackson did not interrupt once. He did not tell me I was crazy. He did not make excuses for his brother. When I finished, the silence was respectful, not judgmental. "So, what do you need?" he finally asked. "I need him to feel what I felt," I said, my voice steady now that the truth was out. Paranoid, jealous, going crazy, wondering what is happening. "I need you to be visible. Pick me up for dinners. Text me when he is watching. Make him wonder." Jackson's thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand, a gesture of unexpected calm. "I'm in," he said simply. "Whatever you need." I left the coffee shop, feeling a dangerous mixture of cold determination and fragile hope. The next morning, that hope was immediately put to the test. I was putting on mascara in the bedroom bathroom when Damon appeared in the doorway. He was still wearing the clothes he had slept in on the couch. "You are up early," he noted, his eyes scanning my outfit. The nice blouse. The jewelry I rarely wore anymore. "Where are you going?" "Coffee with Jackson." The name landed like a grenade. His whole body went rigid. Jackson was the one person in the world who made Damon feel inadequate. Their parents had spent 30 years comparing them, and Damon lost every single time. Jackson built a company, while Damon could not keep a cashier job. Jackson owned his house while Damon lived in mine. Every family dinner reminded Damon he was the disappointment, and he had hated his brother for it since they were kids. "Cancel it," Damon commanded. I kept applying mascara, meticulously separating my lashes. "No, I was not asking," he said, stepping into the bathroom and grabbing my phone off the counter before I could stop him. "What's his number? I will cancel it myself." "Give me my phone, Damon." "Or what?" He held it above his head like we were children fighting over a toy, a pathetic, grown-up version of the tantrums he used to throw. "What are you going to do about it?" I set down my mascara brush and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I had given 10 years to. This man who could not even let me have a cup of coffee without throwing a tantrum. "I am going to walk out of this house," I said, my voice quiet, almost monotonous. "I am going to meet your brother. And when I get back, you are going to give me my phone and apologize for acting like a child." I grabbed my keys off the counter. "Keep the phone," I added. "I will get a new one." His arm dropped, the phone dangling uselessly at his side. "Macy, wait. Macy, wait." I did not wait. Jackson was already at the coffee shop when I arrived. He stood when he saw me and pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than it should have. He smelled expensive, clean, nothing like the cheap cologne Damon had favored for a decade. "You okay?" he asked as we sat down. "You look upset. Your brother took my phone hostage because I wanted to have coffee with you." Jackson's jaw tightened. "That sounds like him." "Does it?" I asked, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Because for 10 years, I thought I was married to a reasonable person. Turns out I was married to a toddler who throws fits when he does not get his way." "He has always been like that," Jackson said, sliding a coffee across the table. "He just hides it well at first." I ordered your usual. "Hope that's okay." I looked at the cup. "Vanilla latte, extra shot, oat milk." It was exactly what I ordered every single time. "How do you know my usual?" "You have ordered the same thing at every family gathering for 5 years." He shrugged. "I pay attention." Something deep in my chest cracked open. Damon did not know my coffee order. We had been married 10 years. And he still asked me every single time, like the information would not stick. Jackson, the man I barely knew, remembered every single detail. It was a small thing, but it was a revelation. It showed me what a lack of attention truly looked like, and what respect felt like. I want him to feel crazy, I repeated, summarizing my plan. I need you around. Just enough to poison his mind. I understand. And I want to help you take back everything he stole. When I got home 3 hours later, Damon was sitting in the dark living room like a horror movie villain. He was holding my phone in his lap. 3 hours. His voice was flat. You were gone 3 hours. We had a lot to talk about. About what? About me. About how terrible I am. Not everything is about you, Damon. Phone. He pulled it from his pocket and threw it at me. Actually threw it. I caught it against my chest. There's your precious phone, he sneered. Check your messages. I am sure Jackson has been texting you non-stop like the desperate loser he is. The only desperate person in this room is you, I said, walking past him toward the stairs. I am taking a shower. Try not to have a meltdown while I am gone. The first date, the first move in my calculated game, was set for Friday. Jackson was coming to pick me up for dinner. I knew Damon was watching and waiting for my next move, but he had no idea what kind of fire he had unleashed. I had spent a decade being the accommodating wife. Now, I was an attorney building a case. And Jackson was my star witness. The first dinner with Jackson was on Friday. I wore the black dress Damon said was too much for a Tuesday. I did my hair the way I used to. Before I stopped trying to impress anyone, before I simply became the provider. When I came downstairs, Damon stood up so fast his chair fell over. He had been waiting for me in the dark living room. No, absolutely not. He hissed, his voice strained. Yes, absolutely yes. I am going out. And you are not leaving this house, dressed like that to meet my brother. Watch me. He grabbed my arm hard. Hard enough that I knew there would be bruises tomorrow. I said, no. And I said, yes. Let go of me. Make me. I looked at his hand clamping down on my arm, then directly into his panicked, jealous face. Then I screamed. It was one loud, sharp sound. A sound I had not made since childhood, and it echoed through the house, probably reaching the neighbors 2 doors down. He let go instantly. His eyes were wide with shock. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing. I just wanted to see how fast you would release me, if you thought someone might hear. I smoothed my dress, where he had crumpled the fabric. No, you know. And now I know exactly how to handle you. Jackson's headlights swept across the window, signaling his arrival. I walked out without looking back. Dinner was incredible. Not just the food, which was excellent, but the conversation. Jackson asked about my latest case. A complex contract dispute I had been living and breathing for 2 months. And he actually listened. He asked thoughtful, high-level questions, treating me like the intelligent professional I was, not the checkbook or the convenience. He remembered details from a conversation years ago about the legal sector that Damon had never bothered to learn. Most importantly, Jackson looked at me like I was someone worth looking at, not just someone to be avoided or controlled. Friday again. He asked when he dropped me off, standing by my front door. Friday again. I confirmed. The second dinner was even better. We closed down the restaurant talking about everything and nothing. When he walked me to the door, he kissed my cheek. and the warmth of that contact stayed with me for hours afterward, a lingering heat that felt entirely foreign. The third dinner was when everything changed. I came home at midnight, fully expecting Damon to be pacing, or sulking, or perhaps dramatically asleep on the couch. Instead, I found him on the couch with Nikki. She was curled up against his side, her shoes off, her head nestled on his shoulder. They were watching a movie like this was completely normal, a regular evening in their cozy arrangement. "Oh, hey," Damon said, but he did not even look at me. "How was your date?" I stood in the doorway, the lingering warmth of Jackson's kiss quickly turning into a deep, shaking rage. "What is she doing here, Damon?" "Nikki. She came over to keep me company, since my wife is never home anymore." Nikki finally looked at me. There was no guilt on her face. No embarrassment, just a smug, pitying smile that made me want to cross the room and slap it off. "You do not mind, do you?" she asked, her voice saccharine sweet. Damon was lonely. "I figured someone should be here for him, since you are always running off with Jackson." "Get out of my house." "Excuse me." "You heard me, get out." Nikki laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "You cannot kick me out. This is Damon's house, too." "No, it isn't. His name is not on the deed. His name is not on the mortgage. His name is not on anything, because he has not worked in 3 years." I dropped my purse on the table with a crash. "So, I will say it again. Get out of my house." Damon finally stood up. "Do not talk to her like that." "Like what?" "Like she is the woman sleeping with my husband." "Nobody is sleeping with anybody." He moved between me and Nikki, physically positioning himself to protect her. "We are friends, that's all. Just like you and Jackson are friends, right?" The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. "You are seriously doing this right now? After everything you said to me about Jackson, after grabbing me and screaming at me and calling me desperate, this is your defense?" "That was different," he insisted. "How? Explain to me how this is different." "Because I am not trying to hurt you." He stepped closer. "Everything I have done has been about protecting our marriage. You are the one running around with my brother, trying to humiliate me." "Protecting our marriage." I laughed again. "Is that what you call rehearsing your fake wedding with my sister? Using our proposal story for her? Almost kissing her on our couch?" Nikki stood up from the couch, her facade finally cracking. "That's not what happened." "Really?" "Because I watched it happen, Nikki. I stood in that hallway and watched him lean into you like you were a magnet, and he couldn't help himself." "You are being dramatic. It was rehearsal." "Rehearsal for what exactly?" "Last time I checked, couples do not almost kiss during practice, unless they want to actually kiss." "Maybe if you paid more attention to your husband, he wouldn't need to practice with someone else," she snapped. The words hung in the air. Nikki's eyes were hard. No sisterly love there. No guilt. Just cold, mean satisfaction at finally saying what she had been thinking. "There it is." I nodded slowly. "That's what you really think, isn't it? That this is my fault? That I drove him to you?" "I did not say that." "You just did." Damon put his hand on Nikki's arm, a gentle, protective touch, the way he used to touch me before he stopped pretending I mattered. "Macy, you need to calm down. Macy, you need to calm down." "Do not tell me to calm down. You invited my sister into our home to make me jealous. And now you are standing there holding her arm like she is the victim. I looked between them. How long have you two been sleeping together? And do not lie to me. I already know about the birthmark. Nikki's face went pale. She looked at Damon, but he was looking at the floor. That's what I thought. I grabbed my purse off the table. I am sleeping in the guest room tonight. When I wake up tomorrow, she better be gone. You cannot just kick her out. Damon argued. I can do whatever I want. It's my house, remember. I started toward the stairs, but Nikki's voice stopped me. It was shaking now with anger and bitterness. You think you are so much better than everyone, don't you? She challenged. The successful attorney, with the big house, and the fancy career. You have always looked down on me. Always treated me like I was less than you. I turned around slowly. I paid your rent for 2 years, Nikki. I paid your car insurance, your phone bill. I gave you $3,000 last Christmas, because you said you were struggling. I stepped closer. And the whole time, you were sleeping with my husband and laughing at me behind my back. I did not steal anything. You were never going to lose him. Her voice cracked. He was always going to stay with you. The money, the house, the stability. That's what he wants. I was just the one he actually loved. The confession hit me, but it did not hurt. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped caring whether Damon loved me. I just wanted him to pay for what he had done. Loved. I repeated the word back to her. Past tense. Nikki blinked. What? You said loved, not loves. I looked at Damon. Is that true? Did you love her? He opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again. Nothing came out. Damon. Nikki's voice was small now, desperate. Tell her. Tell her you love me. Tell her I am not just some mistake. Tell her what you told me when we were alone. Damon ran his hand through his hair, the nervous, cornered gesture I knew so well. Nikki, this is not the time. Then when is the time? She already knows! Everyone already knows? Nikki grabbed his arm. Tell her. He pulled away from her. Actually pulled away. I need some air. He walked out the back door and into the yard, leaving Nikki standing in the middle of my living room, with tears streaming down her face. He loves me, she whispered, watching him go. He told me he loves me. Men say a lot of things, Nikki, I said. Especially when they want something. I watched her crumble. Watched the reality hit her. That she was never going to be his wife. That she had thrown away her relationship with her sister for a man who could not even say he loved her out loud in front of his wife. How does it feel to realize you were just the other woman this whole time? That's not what I was. That's exactly what you were. The exciting secret, the forbidden fruit, the reason he could tolerate being married to me. I picked up my purse. But secrets do not stay secrets forever. And now he has to choose. Do you really think he is going to pick you over everything I provide? Nikki did not answer. She just stood there crying while I walked upstairs to the guest room. I pulled out my phone and texted Jackson. She was here when I got home, curled up with him on the couch like she belonged there. His response came in seconds. Are you okay? Better than okay. He just showed me exactly who he is. And she just realized she was never going to win. Dinner tomorrow. I smiled at my phone in the dark guest room. I could hear Nikki's car starting in the driveway. Hear Damon's footsteps on the back porch. Hear the muffled sound of him calling her name as she drove away. Pick me up at 7. I typed back. And Jackson, thank you for being the one good thing in all of this. Always. Nikki was gone. But the war wasn't over. I had forced a temporary retreat, not a surrender. I knew Damon was a coward who could not tolerate being alone. Especially after watching me walk out with his successful brother. The reconciliation with Nikki was inevitable, and for my final move to work, it was necessary. I needed them to feel secure in their victory. Damon begged Nikki back within 48 hours. I did not need to see them to know it. I heard him on the phone downstairs, his voice a low, urgent stream of promises. He was doing exactly what I expected a man who relies on constant validation and financial stability to do. Groveling to keep the woman who made him feel worth something, while calculating how to keep the woman who paid the bills. I know I messed up. I heard him whisper. I know I hurt you. But Nikki, please. The reunion is in 5 days, and I need you there. Because you are the only one who understands. Because I love you. I was just too scared to say it in front of her. There it was. The confession he could not give when she was standing in my living room crying. The vulnerable admission he saved for the phone call, where he thought no one was listening. He had to reassure her that she was worth the lie. Friday night, I will pick you up at 6. Wear the green dress we picked out, he continued. Then, softer. I promise this time will be different. After the reunion, everything changes. You will see. He hung up, and I stepped back from the upstairs window before he could look up. My hands were perfectly steady. They had not shaken in weeks. Something had hardened inside me since the night I watched Nikki drive away crying, something cold and patient and ready. I picked up my phone and texted Jackson. They are back together. He just told her he loves her. His response came in seconds. Are you okay? I am perfect. The reunion is Friday. Pick me up at 7. What is the plan? I smiled at my phone. You will see. The next few days were spent preparing for the funeral of my old life. Damon went about his routine with a nervous, forced cheerfulness, believing he had successfully negotiated his way out of the disaster. He thought I was sulking, resigned, and waiting for the dust to settle so we could go back to my role as the provider and absorber. He thought he was being clever, sneaking out to meet Nikki, pretending to go for long walks. I, meanwhile, was preparing my argument for the jury of his peers. Friday arrived fast. I spent the afternoon at a salon getting ready. I had my hair done in soft waves. The kind Damon used to complain was too formal. I had my nails painted the deep red he had once said was too bold. My makeup was done by a professional because tonight I wasn't just showing up, I was making an entrance, the kind that demands attention and silence. The dress was new, paid for with the credit card Damon did not know existed, the one I had opened when I first started suspecting something was wrong. It was black, cut low enough to turn heads and high enough to stay classy, a perfect corporate statement, dress repurposed for divorce. Jackson picked me up at exactly 7. He was wearing a charcoal suit, perfectly tailored, with an expensive, understated watch. He was the kind of man who made other men feel small just by existing next to them. When I opened the front door, his eyes moved over me slowly. You look incredible, he said, his voice low and genuine. I know. I grabbed my clutch off the table. I had meticulously reviewed the contents. Car keys, phone, and one heavy, sealed envelope. Ready to crash a party. I have never been more ready for anything. The reunion was at a hotel downtown. Chandeliers, valet parking. Waiters carrying champagne on silver trays. Through the expansive windows, I could see the crowd, Damon's old classmates. All trying to prove the last 10 years had been kind to them, laughing and drinking. They were all there to see the legend, the confident, popular guy who had married the beautiful Nikki and lived happily ever after. You sure about this? Jackson asked as he handed his keys to the valet. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. We walked in together, Jackson's hand resting lightly on the small of my back. My chin up, my posture straight. The room was packed with strangers who knew a version of my husband that was a complete fiction. I spotted them before they spotted me. Damon, in the suit I had bought him for our last anniversary, and Nikki, in the green dress they had rehearsed. Her hand was on his arm, and she was laughing at something one of his friends said. Playing the part of the perfect wife, just like they had practiced in my living room. They looked comfortable, settled, and completely wrong. Then Damon looked up. His face went through 5 distinct emotions, in 2 seconds: confusion, recognition, horror, panic, and then something that looked exactly like deep, cold fear when he realized who was standing next to me. Macy. His voice cracked on my name. I smiled wide enough for the whole room to see. Hey, honey. Surprised. Stepping into the foyer of the hotel with Jackson. I wasn't just walking into a reunion. I was walking into the funeral of my old life. The air felt heavy with the scent of lilies and stale ambition. Jackson's hand on the small of my back felt like a steady anchor, and for the first time in years, I felt entirely present. I spotted Damen and Nikki across the room, frozen mid-laugh, playing their designated roles flawlessly. When Damen finally looked up and saw me standing next to Jackson, the shift in his expression was immediate and devastating. I watched the horror take hold. The realization that his carefully constructed lie was about to be obliterated by the 2 people he feared and resented most. Carissa, his voice was barely a whisper, thin and ragged. Macy. Hey, honey. I smiled, letting the sound carry. Surprised. The crowd around them went quiet, the whispers spreading like fire through dry grass. Everyone was looking. What are you doing here? Damon demanded, his eyes wide and darting. I am meeting my husband's old friends, I said, stepping closer. Isn't that what wives do at reunions? I glanced at Nikki. Oh, I am sorry. Did I interrupt something? Nikki's face had gone paper white. She was staring at Jackson like she had seen a ghost, completely incapable of maintaining her composure or her script. Who's this? One of Damon's friends stepped forward, a big guy with a friendly, oblivious smile. I don't think we have met. I extended my hand, my movement smooth and deliberate. I am Macy, Damon's wife, his actual wife. The one he has been married to for the last 10 years. The friend's smile faltered, replaced by deep confusion. I thought Nikki was his wife. That's funny, I replied, tilting my head. Because Nikki is my sister. And she has been sleeping with my husband for the past year while I paid her rent. The whispers turned into sharp gasps. Damon grabbed my arm and tried to pull me away, his grip desperate. Macy, Stop! You are embarrassing yourself! No. I pulled my arm free, my voice ringing with clarity. I am embarrassing you. There is a difference. Who's he? Another friend asked, pointing at Jackson. Why is he here? This is Jackson, I said, gesturing to the man beside me. Damon's brother. The successful one. The one your friend here has been jealous of since they were kids. I looked straight at Damon. My husband wanted my sister to be his wife for a day. His brother wanted me for life. I simply chose the man who values truth over a cheap facade. Damon's face was desperate now. Macy, please. Can we talk about this somewhere private? Private? You have been lying to these people for 10 years! You told them you married the prettier sister. You told them Nikki was your wife. You used our proposal story for her. I turned to face the growing crowd, addressing the room, the jury I had assembled. Does anyone here want to see pictures from our actual wedding? Because I have them right here on my phone. Hands went up. People crowded around. I pulled up photo after photo, me in the white dress, me and Damon at the altar, me cutting the cake while Nikki stood in the background as a bridesmaid. That's Nikki, I said, pointing to the woman in the green dress, who was now visibly shaking. The woman he is parading around tonight, as his wife. My sister. My maid of honor. The woman I trusted more than anyone in the world. Nikki finally found her voice, thin and strained. Macy. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you are wearing the dress you rehearsed in my living room. It looks like you are holding my husband's arm. It looks like you came here, tonight, planning to pretend you were me. I stepped closer to her, my gaze unwavering. How does it feel, Nikki, to finally get what you wanted and have it blow up in your face? I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered, tears starting to fall. Then what did you want? Because from where I am standing, it looks like you wanted my husband, my life, my proposal story. Everything that was mine. He told me you didn't appreciate him. Nikki cried out. He told me your marriage was over. He told me you were just staying together for convenience. And you believed him. I laughed, a sharp, cold sound. The man who can't hold a job. The man who lives in my house and drives my car and hasn't paid a bill in 3 years. That is the man you trusted to tell you the truth about our marriage. Nikki looked at Damon, waiting for him to defend her, to say something, anything. Damon, her voice pleaded. Tell them what you told me. Nikki, He ran his hand through his hair again, the nervous habit of a cornered coward. I think we should all just calm down. Calm down. Nikki's voice rose to a hysterical pitch. You told me you loved me? You told me after the reunion everything would change. You told me we were going to be together. The crowd was rapt. Phones were out. Damon's carefully constructed lie was crumbling, and everyone was watching the spectacle. Is that true, Damon? The big friendly guy asked. You told us you and Nikki had been married for 10 years. You showed us pictures. You talked about your honeymoon. I can explain. Damon stammered. Then explain, I challenged, crossing my arms. Explain to your friends why you have been lying to them. Explain why your actual wife is standing here, with your brother, while your mistress wears the dress you picked out together. Explain why you are such a coward that you couldn't even tell the truth to people you have known since high school. Damon opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again. Nothing came out. Jackson stepped forward and put his hand firmly on my back. I think we are done here. Almost. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the envelope I had been carrying all night. I handed it to Damon. He stared at it like it might bite him. What is this? Open it. His hands shook as he tore the envelope, pulled out the papers inside, and read the first line. His face went gray, the color draining completely. Divorce papers, I said, allowing myself a small, hard smile. My lawyer drew them up last week. You have 30 days to respond. Macy, wait! We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can. No. I cut him off, finality heavy in my voice. We can't, because I don't want to work it out. I don't want counseling. I don't want to spend another minute of my life with a man who told everyone he married the prettier sister while I paid for everything he owns. I looked at Nikki. And you. I hope he was worth it, because you just lost your sister, your rent payments, your car insurance. Everything I gave you because I thought family meant something. I shook my head, feeling nothing but cold resolve. Good luck figuring out how to survive without me. Jackson took my hand, his fingers strong and reassuring, and we walked toward the door. The crowd parted for us. No one tried to stop us. No one defended Damon. They just watched as his entire world collapsed around him. At the door, I stopped and looked back one last time. Damon was still holding the divorce papers. Nikki was sobbing, defeated. His friends were staring at him like they had never seen him before. By the way, I called out, my voice cutting through the sudden, appalled silence. The house is in my name. So is the car. So is everything. You have until the end of the month to get your things out. Walking out with Jackson, leaving the wreckage of Damon's lie behind, I felt the cool night air wash over me. How do you feel? Jackson asked as we pulled away from the hotel. I watched the building shrink in the side mirror. The symbol of everything I had just destroyed, and everything I was about to build in its place. Free, I said. I feel free. Damon moved out 3 weeks later. I watched from the bedroom window as he loaded boxes into a rental truck. Not his car, because that was in my name. Not with help from his friends, because most of them stopped returning his calls after the reunion. Just him alone in the driveway, slowly carrying the pieces of a life he had spent 10 years pretending to deserve. He knocked on the door before he left. I opened it, but didn't let him inside. I just wanted to say goodbye, he mumbled. His eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. And I'm sorry for everything. Okay, I said. That's it. Just okay. What do you want me to say, Damon? That I forgive you. That I hope you find happiness. I leaned against the doorframe, my voice devoid of emotion. I don't. I hope you spend the rest of your life remembering what you threw away. I hope every time something good happens to you, there's a little voice in the back of your head reminding you that you don't deserve it. He flinched. You've changed. No. I just stopped pretending to be someone I'm not so you could feel better about yourself. I stepped back and put my hand on the door. Goodbye, Damon. I closed it before he could respond. Nikki called me twice that first week. I didn't answer. She left voicemails asking if we could talk. Asking if there was any way to fix things between us. Asking if I could at least keep paying her rent. until she figured things out. I deleted them without listening past the first few words. 2 months later, I heard through a cousin that she and Damon had tried to make it work. They moved into a tiny apartment together, and the dream life they had rehearsed in my living room turned into screaming matches about bills and whose turn it was to buy groceries. Damon got a job at a warehouse. Nikki picked up shifts at a restaurant. The house of cards collapsed because there was no foundation of shared responsibility, only shared deceit. They broke up before their lease was even signed. Nikki moved back in with our parents. Damon disappeared somewhere nobody bothered to track. Jackson and I took things slow. Dinners turned into weekends. Weekends turned into trips. The trip to Italy I had always wanted finally happened. We spent 2 weeks eating pasta and drinking wine, and not once did we talk about Damon. Jackson did not need me to provide for him. He only needed me to be myself. 6 months after the reunion, Jackson asked me to move in with him. I said yes without hesitation, because I knew he actually wanted me for life.